Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this video from. Enya Emmanuel. I'm a tutor in Techie Academic. I'm going to give a paraphrase of architectural diagram, the basic concept. So now when we talk of data engineering, most people just laugh over it because it has to do with moving data from one place to another place. Now, there's a lot of guide out there on data engineering, data pipeline, data modeling. Uh, but today I just want to give an overview of the whole process. Now, the whole process that is captured in the architectural design that explains a data from the source to the destination. Now, if you actually know what you're doing, it becomes very easy for you to build a pipeline because you know exactly what you are doing and it becomes easy. And that is why without a proper architectural design, it becomes very difficult for you to visualize what you're doing. So now there's what we call the source data. Now let me have a diagram here. Okay, let's take this now. For instance, this is the source data. This source data now, this is where, let's see, source data. Now this source data now, this is where you intend to take your data from. Now the plan of you taking this data from the source data now is to move it to a destination where you want it. Let's have another diagram here. Maybe this is your destination. Now this is your destination. You want to move this data from here down to this point. Now, without you actually visualizing what you want to do, it becomes difficult for you because you don't know what to do at a given particular point or at a given point in time. So now the ability for you to understand the architectural structure gives you a very clear point of view of what you want to do. Now let's take, for instance, now this is the source data now. And this is the data I want to move, this file. Now keep it at the back of your mind that when you're removing this file to your destination, there are processes now involved. Now you hear someone say it's the medallion architectural design where we have the bronze, we have the silver, and we have the gold. Now, these are different stage life cycle of data or in the process of transforming data. Now, when we talk of the bronze, now when we talk of the bronze has to do with data that is directly similar to the source data. So in the extraction process now, when you take a data from the source, you ingest it into the bronze layer. Some people call it the bronze, some people call it the landing, you can call it the staging. Now, this particular form of data now is similar to what you have in the source data. Now, why is it important that you always have this staging data? Now, one of the main reasons why you always have it, for instance, now in the process of your transformation, now maybe you accidentally formatted a role and or you deleted something in the process. Now, you won't just have to go back to the source data, ask for it again. Or in some cases where maybe the way you get your source data, you don't have access to your source data like that in some companies. Let's say, for instance, now I get data from Facebook, and now they give me access for a week. And after that period, that access is denied. I no longer have that access again. Now, in the process of my transformation, now I now made a mistake. So now it's not possible for me to go back to Facebook and ask them for the data again because they're actually the source data. So that's how important the bronze data is now, because it's a similar version of the source data. So me having this data now on my bronze, I will now come back to it as my reference point now. So now let's go back to the next stage of, which has to do with the silver. Now, now the silver now has to do with, this is the second stage of data transformation. Little transformation is being carried out in this the silver, where we have things like normalization, standardization, we have denormalizations. Now you've actually started working on the data, removing the data from the bronze layer. Little transformation is being done on it to make the data business wise. Then we don't have the last, which is the gold. Now, the gold layer. Now, when we talk about the gold layer has to do with data that is ready for consumption. Because at this point now, the data has been formatted to suit the business and it's aligned with the goals of the business. Now, keep it at the back of your mind that the whole of this process now involves data storage. The whole of this process now involves data storage, because all what you're doing, you are doing them in, you're doing them in is either a warehouse or a lake house, let's say storage. Now, from what I'm seeing now, okay, let me correct this. Now, what I'm saying now is, sorry, my diagram it's not okay. I work on that. Now, this is storage. This is the destination now. What we are doing now is we are trying to format this data we got from the source to suit the needed specification of the destination. You won't just take a data from the source and move it to the destination like that. That's actually moving of data. Now, being a data engineer now, you don't just move data like that, because you have to make the data meaningful. You have to make the data suit the purpose why they want the data. So that's why there's basic provisions for transformations of the data. Now, now let's go. Now, there's another thing you have to take in mind. Despite the fact that storage is cheap, you should also be careful enough on your architectural design. Now, you see, tools are awesome. You see, there's a lot of tools, a lot of technologies out there, a lot of storage. We have GCP, we have AWS. There are a lot of storage, but you should be very careful to know the kind of storage you need that suits your purpose and accessibility. So now, moving a data from one point to another point is actually the sole aim of being a data engineer. That's one. Then the next aspect now is understanding the definition of the data. Now, within this process now, you have to take in note the file type, the format of the data. You have to take into consideration the format of the data. Now, there are several formats of data. We have the JSON, we have the Parquet thing. Now, depending on what you want to do and the level of optimization, that will determine the format of data you will need. Okay, now let's go. In our drawing, let's break down a little into the data storage. Now, when we talk of the data storage now, the bronze aspect now, since it connects directly to the source data, sometimes the source data might not be formatted, might be unstructured, might be structured, might be unstructured, or semi-structured. So you have to understand now, if it's a structured data that you are actually ingesting from the source data now, you can send it directly to your warehouse, which is possible. But mind you, that at any point you have to understand the nature of the data and the format of the data so that you will not get into unwanted errors when you are transforming your data. So now that's why it's always important to always have the staging. Now, by having the staging now, you're able to understand that whatever happens after the staging to the next level, which is silver, you are in transformation. So it gives you easy understanding of what happens to the data. Now, moving the data now to the destination. Where's my okay? Now, moving the data now to the destination now, since you have actually transformed the data and it's ready now, you now move the data to the destination where you want it now. Okay, now let's actually do a practical aspect of what we just drawn now so that you understand it, because it will be a bit difficult. Now let me log in. I think this stuff locked me out. Let me log in now. Okay, I mean, open. Just a minute. Okay, now let's have a diagram to explain what I just finished. Now, let's call it, this is the first stage now. We call it the bronze. We call it the silver layer. We call it the gold layer. Okay, now let's have a text. Then we have here our source data. Let's look for a good shape or arrow point that will give us what we want to do. Let's say arrow point. Okay. Sure. Okay. Now, these arrow points from the source, let me give a description to this now to specify that that's actually the warehouse or the data storage. Okay. Now this is this data storage now. Now this the storage now comprises the three layers of transformation because this transformations is being done inside the storage. And the last layer now, which has to do with the processed data. Now, okay, now if you can picture this now, you now have a basic understanding of the complete life cycle of the movement of data, where it starts from the source, it moves to the storage, the staging, which is the bronze. You now have the silver, then you now have the gold. Then the analysis team takes it, all the machine learning teams takes it and do whatever they want to do. Now, under this, we can have, sorry, this is actually an online tool, and we have the raw data. Just as I mentioned earlier, this is the landing, or you can call it the raw data, or you call it the staging. This actually holds the data similar to the source data for reference purposes, or then we now have the silver now has to do with transform data or transformation process, transform data. This process involves the transformation that takes place in the data. Now the goal has to do with ready data or ready for consumption. Okay. Now, having this at the back of your mind, you understand the movement of data because you know where the data is coming from and you know where the data is going to, and you know what you want to do with the data. The ability for you to visualize the life cycle of data gives you a good edge to actually understand what data engineering is about. Now, if you get this, you now know what to do at what point, what to do, when to do it, how to do it. So you won't confuse yourself over any process because you actually know, okay, at this point, this is what I'm doing. So at this point, this is the source data. What am I doing in the source data? I'm ingesting the data into my bronze. I'm ingesting the data into bronze. Then the bronze now, I'm actually taking the data into my silver, that's transformation. Then the next thing, I'm sending it into my gold, which is ready for consumption. Then the analysis teams can take it from there. I think with this, I've given a basic understanding of the architectural structure of a data from the source to the destination.